You are not lost. You just have not yet understood what God has already started doing in your life. And this is exactly what is confusing you now, because deep inside, what hurts most is not the problem itself, but not being able to understand what it all means. It is feeling that something has shifted, that things have changed, that what once felt clear no longer fits, and no one can give you a simple answer, not people, not situations. And at times it may even feel as if God is silent too. You keep going, you keep trying to make everything look fine on the outside, but inside there is quiet disorder. Your mind keeps running, your feelings rise and fall, and that strange feeling of not belonging begins to follow you every day. It is not only doubt, it is a deep confusion that makes the soul tired. It feels like walking on a road you once knew well, but now everything looks unfamiliar, and the harder you try to understand, the farther the answer seems. And this is the part almost no one wants to say clearly. What feels heaviest is not the situation but the silence. It is praying and not feeling the way you once did. It is asking for direction and only hearing wait. It is still believing, but not being able to see where all of this is going. Then, without noticing, a quiet thought begins to appear. Am I doing something wrong, or is something happening that I cannot yet see? But there is something that can change everything, and most people do not explain it the right way. That feeling of being lost, that confusing season, that sense that you have no control over your life, is not proof that God is absent. It is the opposite. An answer is forming in the middle of all this. There is a purpose that has not yet been fully shown, not because it is not real, but because you are still being shaped through the process. And today, you can begin to see it in a different way. Now answer honestly, what confuses you most in your life today? What area do you avoid facing fully because you know you still have not found the answer? Write it here in the comments, but write it with honesty. Not like someone trying to look strong, but like someone who has finally chosen not to carry this heaviness alone anymore. Because when you speak about what you are going through, something inside you begins to settle, and at the same time, others will read it and understand that they are not the only ones facing this quiet battle. You did not come across this by accident. There is a reason this message found you at this moment. What is happening in your life? Deep down, you already have an answer. And as this video continues, everything will start to make sense in a way that maybe no one has ever explained to you before. If this message has already touched your heart, think about liking it as a sign of support, because this can help it reach others who are also living through the same confusion but still have not found their direction. And if you feel that you need answers, peace, and a place where your faith truly matters, subscribe to the channel, because here you are not by yourself. Here, there is a community that moves forward together, even during the hardest seasons. Stay with me until the end, because Jesus showed something about moments like this that can completely change how you see what you are going through. And almost no one pays attention to this detail. Take a deep breath and open your heart, because today may be the day God starts to reveal what has felt impossible to understand until now. The glass is still half full on the table. The coffee has been cold for some time, and you did not even notice it. For hours, your mind has been drifting, caught in a circle that seems to have no end, trying to understand where everything started going wrong. It is not a crisis that everyone can see, and there is not one clear event that explains it. It is worse than that. It is a chain of small things that slowly, before you notice, turn into a weight you carry every day. And the strangest part is that from the outside, your life may not look like it is falling apart, but inside you know the truth. Something is not right. There are mornings when you wake up and need a few seconds to remember who you were before all this started, before the confusion, before the questions, before this feeling of walking without a clear direction. And the question comes up almost on its own. How did I end up here? It is not only about having problems. It is about no longer knowing the road you are on. It is about feeling that you have lost control of something that once looked so clear. And the more you try to put yourself together, the more everything seems to fall out of your hands. And there is one detail that very few people are willing to face. Sometimes the pain does not come from what happened, but from what never made sense at all. When something goes wrong, At least there is usually a reason, an explanation, or someone to blame. But what happens when there is no clear reason? What happens when everything changes? Everything stops, everything becomes unclear, without warning, without logic. That is when the mind begins to get lost. That is when the heart grows tired from trying to understand. Now imagine someone who went through exactly that, but at a level very few people could bear. Brothers and sisters, I want to speak to you from the heart for a moment. Our channel has recently been demonetized, which means we no longer receive support from YouTube through ad revenue. Still, our mission to share the Word of God and spread the gospel continues with faith and dedication. Behind every video is a faithful team working day and night to serve this ministry. As the one leading this work, I carry the responsibility of supporting them, and without monetization, this has become very difficult. If these messages have blessed, encouraged, or strengthened you, please prayerfully consider supporting us through Ko-fi. Your gift helps us continue sharing God's Word and shining His light. The link is in the description or pinned comment. We are deeply grateful for your prayers, love, and support. Now, let us return to the message. Joseph was a young man with dreams so clear and powerful that they seem to have been placed in him by God Himself. Dreams of greatness, of purpose, of a future chosen by God. But suddenly everything changed. He was betrayed by his own brothers, thrown into a pit as though his life had no worth at all, and it did not stop there. He was sold as a slave, taken into a foreign land, far away from everything he knew. And when it looked as if things might finally get better, another fall came. He was falsely accused, put in prison, and forgotten. Now think honestly, at what moment did any of this make sense? At what point in the story could Joseph say, I understand what God is doing? There was no logic, no explanation, no answer, only silence. And his situation looked completely opposite to what he believed was God's plan. And here is something that can completely change how you see life. The real problem was never what was happening to Joseph. The problem was what he could not see yet. Because while Joseph was in the pit, in the slave market, and in the prison, something was being shaped quietly, something that did not need him to understand it in order for it to happen. Take a deep breath for a moment, because maybe the mistake is not that your life has gone completely out of control, but that you are expecting to understand everything while you are still inside the process. The Bible shows something that was only spoken at the end of the story, when everything was finally in place, when everything began to make sense. Joseph looked at the people who had hurt him and said, You meant to harm me, but God meant it for good, to do what is now being done, the saving of many lives. Genesis 50:20. Do you understand how important that is? He did not pretend nothing happened, and he did not make the pain look beautiful. He accepted it. It was wrong, it was unfair, it was painful, but the story did not finish there. And this is the part almost no one explains clearly. God's purpose is not always shown at the beginning or even in the middle. It is shown when the story has already moved into a direction you have not seen yet. Maybe you are trying to understand your life from a chapter that is still unfinished. Maybe you are asking for answers from a process that is still being written. And this creates a quiet frustration inside you because nothing seems to connect, nothing seems to answer, and nothing seems to be solved. But there is a practical way this can begin to change inside you. It is not about ignoring your feelings, but about changing the way you look at what is happening. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Begin to notice what is being formed in me through this. Because while you are trying to find an explanation in the situation, God is working inside you, and that changes everything, because it moves you away from the place of a victim and puts you in the place of someone who is being prepared, even if you do not see it yet. Now, let me say something that may make you uncomfortable. Is the confusion you feel really a sign that something went wrong? Or could it be a sign that something greater has started and you have not yet understood it? This question feels uncomfortable because it challenges the belief that everything has to make sense right away. It faces our desire to stay in control, but at the same time, it creates room for another kind of hope, a hope that does not depend on what we understand, but on what is moving beyond what we can see. And if this touched something true inside you, do not keep it hidden. Write in the comments which part of your life today feels like a chapter without meaning, what you can see but cannot explain, what confuses you, what makes you tired. Put it into words. Because when you bring it out, you not only begin to organize what you are carrying inside, but you also help others who are facing something similar understand that they are not alone. What many people do not realize is that stories like Joseph's are not only about the past. They are mirrors of processes that still happen today in real life, in seasons of silence like the one you may be walking through. And there is one detail in this journey that almost no one notices. A certain point that can completely change the way you understand the silence and confusion before you. The wind does not bring answers. It only lifts dust around a man who has lost everything without knowing why. Job sits on the ground in silence, surrounded by what is left of the life he once had. His belongings are gone, his children are gone, and his body is covered with wounds that no one is able to heal. And the hardest part is not only what he lost, but what he never received. An explanation. No clear answer, no warning beforehand, no way to make sense of the chaos that has taken over his life. And this is where the pain becomes deeper than it first seems. Because loss hurts, yes, but not knowing why you lost can break you inside in a way few people can describe. Was Job far from God? No. He was not spiritually lost, and he was not living in willful sin. In fact, his life was upright, and still everything fell apart. This breaks an idea that many people still carry quietly, that when something goes wrong, it must mean faith failed somewhere. Now look closely at this situation, because it may look more like your own life than you think. You try to do what is right, you try to hold on to faith, you try to keep trusting, but there is a silence that does not end. Your prayers seem to receive no answer. Time keeps passing and nothing seems to change, and slowly that feeling begins to grow. Does God still hear me? It is not a question you say out loud, but it is still there. And the most dangerous part of this silence is not only the silence itself, but what you start creating inside it. Thoughts begin to rise that were not there before. Doubts you never carried begin to settle in. And without noticing it, your mind tries to fill the empty space with meanings that may not be true. Maybe I am not enough. Maybe God has stepped away. Maybe this will never change. But there is a moment in Job's story that completely changes the view of anyone who is willing to look beyond the pain. During the whole process, God stayed silent. He did not explain, defend, or describe what was happening. And that feels disturbing, because we have been taught to think that real faith always comes with clear answers. But God's silence does not mean he is not working. There is a statement Job makes after passing through this process, and few people understand its full meaning. I know that you can do all things, and that no purpose of yours can be stopped. Job 42:2. Notice the detail. He did not say this at the start, and he did not say it when everything was going well. This certainty was born after the silence, after the pain, after the confusion. This shows something important. The deepest faith is not built when everything makes sense. It is formed when nothing is explained, but a person chooses not to stop trusting. And here, an important question must be faced. Is the silence you are going through really a sign that you have been left alone? Or could it be the place where something stronger is being built inside you? Because while you are looking for answers on the outside, God may be working on something inside you that will hold you up in places you have not reached yet. Take a deep breath and receive this calmly. Not every silence is empty. Some silences are processes. Some are spaces where shallow things begin to disappear so that something deeper can be formed. And this is not comfortable, it is not fast, and it is not easy to accept, but it is real. The question is, what do you do when you do not understand? Because this is the point where many people give up, not on life, but on trust. They continue living, they continue moving forward, but inside, they no longer believe in the same way. And that is the most serious point. It is not pain that pushes most people away, but the meaning they give to that pain. Maybe you were taught that God always answers quickly, that everything needs an immediate response, that faith brings instant clarity. But what if that is not the whole truth? What if part of the process is exactly learning to keep going even when you do not understand? This does not mean accepting every situation without action. It means not letting the absence of an answer destroy what God is still holding together, even if you cannot see it. Here is a practical way this can begin to put your inner life back in order. Instead of trying to force answers out of the silence, begin to notice what that silence shows you about yourself. What thoughts come up, what fears appear, what insecurities become clearer. Because many times the process is not only about changing the situation, but about changing your position inside it. And that can completely change the direction of everything. Because when you understand that silence is not the end, you stop seeing every unanswered day as a step backward and begin to realize that even without visible signs, something is still taking place. Now pay close attention to this thought, because it may change how you see everything. God does not need to explain himself in order to keep working. And maybe this challenges an expectation you did not even know you were carrying, the expectation of control, the need to understand every detail before you choose to trust. But faith at the level where it truly changes you does not work like that. It grows exactly where control comes to an end. And there is one detail in this story that almost no one sees. While Job was facing his pain here on earth, something was taking place beyond what he could see, a spiritual reality, a conversation, a situation he knew nothing about. This means his reality was not limited to what he was living through. Something greater was involved. Think about this for a moment. What if what you see is not the whole picture? What if there is something beyond what your eyes can notice? This is not meant to explain everything. It is an invitation to see wider, because when you reduce your reality only to what you feel, everything becomes heavier. But when you consider that something greater may be happening, even without understanding it, space opens for you to keep going. And here comes a very important emotional point. You do not need to have every answer in order to continue moving forward. You only need not to stop what is still being held together. Silence is not the end of communication. It is another way it can happen. And something begins to grow when a person remains, even without understanding. It is not instant, it is not clear at first, but it is real. An inner strength, a firmness that does not depend so much on circumstances, something that is not formed when everything is clear, but when everything is uncertain. But there is another detail that goes even deeper, something many people completely miss, and that may explain why some processes feel so intense. Because not every battle you face is only outside of you. Some are fought inside you, in places you have not fully understood yet. His voice trembles in the middle of the sentence. Moses holds the staff firmly, but deep inside he knows the task is bigger than him. This is not fake humility or shallow fear. It is a real awareness of his own weakness. Before him stands an impossible mission, facing the most powerful man of that time, freeing a whole people, crossing a land with no guarantees, and what makes it even harder, he does not feel ready. Who am I to do this? This question did not come from nowhere. It carried history, wounds, and memories of past failure. Moses was not beginning with a clean page. He carried the weight of having tried before and failed, and that changes everything. Because when someone has already made a mistake while trying to do what was right, the fear is not only about the future, it is about repeating the past. Now bring this close to your own life. It is not only fear of what may come, but also not fully trusting yourself to handle whatever happens next. It is making serious decisions and hesitating again and again, not because you do not want to move, but because doubt has become too strong. It is feeling that every step could be a mistake, and that quietly freezes you. Moses tries to explain, tries to step away, tries to give reasons why he should not go. He does not deny the calling, but he also cannot see himself fitting into it. And this inner struggle is more common than it seems. Because there are seasons when life pushes you towards something bigger, while everything inside you says you are not prepared. But there is a moment in this story that completely changes normal thinking. God does not answer Moses by saying you are able to do it. He does not try to build up his confidence or prove to him that he has enough strength. The answer is simple, direct, and almost surprising. I will be with you. Do you understand how important that is? The answer is not found in Moses' ability, but in the presence of God. And this begins an important change in how we think. because many times we believe we must feel ready before taking the next step, that we need certainty, clarity, and control. But this story shows the exact opposite. Moving forward does not depend on how confident you feel, but on your willingness to keep walking, even when you do not feel enough. Then the important moment comes. The people leave Egypt. For the first time, everything seems to be moving forward. The impossible starts becoming real, but suddenly the whole scene changes. In front of them is the sea. Behind them, Pharaoh's army is coming closer, and the fear they thought they had left behind comes back with full force. There is no way out. This is not just a hard moment, it is an obstacle that looks impossible to overcome. There is no reasonable plan, no clear option, no visible way forward. And the most troubling part is that all of this happened after they obeyed. They had not left the path. They were exactly where they were meant to be. Now think honestly, how many times have you done what you believed was right, followed what seemed to be the right direction, and still ended up in a situation that made no sense, the kind of situation that appears to go against everything you believed? This is where many people become stuck, because when a problem appears outside the path, there is still some reason for it, but when it appears inside the path, it shakes the books of faith. The people are afraid. They complain, they question, and they regret leaving. The pressure around them reveals what was already inside them. And Moses, the same man who once felt unable, now has to stand firm. And in this moment, one of the strongest statements in this whole journey appears. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Exodus 14:14. It is not about doing more. It is not about creating a human answer. It is about understanding that some battles cannot be won through strength. This directly challenges a common way of thinking, the belief that you must handle everything on your own, that if you do not fix it, no one else will fix it for you. But this passage reveals something different. It shows that there are moments when trying harder to stay in control only makes the pressure greater. And here comes a change in perspective that can transform the way you face what you are going through. Not every situation needs quick action. Some situations require the right inner position. In this context, being still does not mean doing nothing. It means trusting enough not to panic. It means not letting fear make your decisions, because when fear takes over, every direction looks wrong. And then something happens that goes completely against human logic. The sea does not open before the movement. First comes the step, then comes the way. This detail is very important because many people wait for everything to become clear before they act. They wait for life to be completely organized before they trust. But this story shows that many times the path is only revealed while you are walking, and that requires another kind of faith. Not a faith built on guarantees, but one that remains steady even when there is no clear certainty. Maybe the biggest mistake you are making is not that you feel fear, but that you are waiting for fear to fully disappear before moving forward, because most of the time it will not leave before you start moving. It will become weaker as you continue. And here is a question that may disturb you. What is stopping you today? Is it truly a lack of ability, or is it the need to have every answer before taking the next step? Because if that is the case, you may keep waiting for something that may never come in the way you expect. Everything starts to make sense when you realize that you do not have to control everything, that you do not have to predict every detail, that you do not need complete certainty in order to move forward. This does not remove fear, but it stops fear from freezing you. If this part of the message has spoken to you, write in the comments which decision or area of your life today makes you most worried about the future. You do not have to explain it perfectly. Write it honestly, exactly as you feel it. Because when you bring it out, you begin to make the weight lighter instead of carrying it alone, and at the same time, you allow others to find strength when they see they are not the only ones facing this kind of battle. If this message helps you understand your situation more clearly, give it a like. That way, this content can reach other people who are also facing this kind of uncertainty. Share it with someone who needs to hear it, someone who feels stuck and afraid to take the next step. Sometimes the right word at the right time can completely change the direction of a person's life. But there is one part of this story that almost no one notices. The biggest challenge was not the sea in front of them, but what was happening inside them as they looked at that scene. David is in a place where he should never have been. The noise in the house does not stop. Plates are being put away, quick footsteps move around, voices are heard in the background, and tasks keep piling up as if every small detail depends only on the person trying to manage everything. Martha moves from one place to another with a crowded mind, a fast-beating heart, and the constant feeling that it is still not enough. Not because she is doing nothing, but because something always appears to be missing. There is always another detail, another duty, another worry that does not allow her to stop. And the most interesting part of this scene is that Jesus is there, not far away, not absent, not busy with something else. He is present inside the house. Even so, Martha cannot rest. This shows something deep that many people live through today. It is not always the absence of God that creates tiredness, but the inability to slow down even when God is present. Martha is not wrong for serving. The problem is not what she is doing, but what is happening inside her while she does it. Her mind does not switch off, her heart does not settle. There is an inner pressure that turns even something that could have been light into a continual burden. And then the moment comes when she cannot hold it in any longer. She looks at Jesus and, in simple words, says, "Lord, do you not see what is happening?" It is not only a request for help, but a request filled with pressure and frustration. Now look closely, because this happens more often than it seems. It is not only about duties, it is about a mind that never becomes quiet. It is about lying down and still thinking. It is about trying to pray, but being interrupted by thoughts that keep moving. It is about living with a constant feeling of urgency, as if everything matters at once, as if everything must be fixed at the same time. Then Jesus answers, not with cruelty, but with a deep challenge. "Martha, Martha, you are worried and troubled about many things." Luke 10:41-42. He does not begin by correcting what she is doing. He shows what is happening inside her. Worry and restlessness are not just feelings that come and go. They have become the way she is living. And here is an important truth. The pressure you feel today may not come only from how many things you have to do, but from how your mind is carrying all of it. Because some people have fewer responsibilities and still feel completely drained, while others carry much more and live with less anxiety. This does not mean you are weak, but that something deeper is involved. Martha was busy on the outside but overwhelmed on the inside, and that creates a tiredness that normal rest cannot fix. Sleep does not fix it. A few hours of rest do not fix it, because the root is not only in the body, it is in the mind and heart. Now look at the contrast. Mary is sitting and listening to Jesus, not because she has nothing to do, but because she chose differently, and that creates discomfort. Because when someone pauses in the middle of disorder, those who are rushing often see it as unfair. Martha compares, Martha becomes upset, Martha places her frustration on someone else. And this is another point that makes the burden heavier: constant comparison. Looking at another person and thinking they do less, give less, and rest while you carry everything. This not only wears you out, but also makes your heart harder. But Jesus does not agree with that way of thinking. He does not say, "You are right, Mary should help more." He turns Martha's attention towards something deeper. Only one thing is necessary. This sentence does not make life's responsibilities unimportant, but it puts inner priorities back in order. Because when everything becomes urgent, nothing stays balanced. And here comes a question many people avoid. Is the excessive activity you keep maintaining actually stopping you from facing what is inside you? Because for many people, stopping does not feel easy. Stopping means thinking. Stopping means feeling. Stopping means facing what constant movement has been hiding. There is a difference between being productive and running away, and that line is often hard to see. Maybe you keep yourself too busy, not only because you must, but because you do not know how to handle the silence. Because when everything becomes quiet, the mind starts running even faster, and then you make yourself busy again, not because it is necessary, but because it makes you feel numb. But this way of living has a very high cost, because the more you try to control everything around you, the more confused your inner life becomes. And the words of Jesus point exactly to that. It is not about doing less simply for the sake of doing less. It is about reconnecting with what keeps you steady inside, because without that, any routine, no matter how organized it looks, becomes emotionally impossible to maintain. Here is a practical way this can begin to change your life. It is not about leaving your responsibilities, but about making intentional spaces where you are not producing, fixing, or chasing anything. Spaces where you simply come before God, without a plan, without rushing, without the pressure to perform spiritually. And maybe this sounds simple, but for someone used to living in a constant hurry, it is a real challenge, because your mind will resist it. It will tell you that you are wasting time, that you have more important things to do, that you need to return to the same pace. But it is exactly at this point that change begins, because peace is not the absence of responsibility, it is the presence of steadiness in the middle of it. And this does not come from the outside to the inside. It does not come when everything is fixed. It does not come when your schedule is empty. It comes when you learn not to let everything outside control what is happening inside. And here is a question that may make you uncomfortable. What is tiring you today? Is it really everything you have to do, or is it the weight of trying to control everything at the same time? Because there is a difference between living with purpose and living under pressure, and that difference decides how you finish your days, with peace or completely drained. Martha was near Jesus but did not feel his presence. This shows that being physically close, or even spiritually close, does not always guarantee rest. What truly brings rest is inner focus.